Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Larry, and for those who have been previously subscribed, welcome back. And for those who are new to the channel, welcome to my little channel. This is where I like to talk about watches that I find interesting. This is where I share my thoughts about these watches as well. And also, to be fair, this is also where I want to utilize this YouTube channel to document my own individual personal growth. And to give you a little bit more context to start the video, I've promised myself to do one difficult thing every year, and this is going to be it, putting myself on the internet in front of a camera, talking about a topic that I'm really passionate about. So if this is something that you guys would enjoy, please feel free to stick around. If there's any comments or suggestions about this, please feel free to let me know. I do a lot of presentations in my day job. I'm very client facing, but speaking in front of a camera, it's entirely different. So please do bear with me. If there's once again any suggestions, please feel free to let me know. But yeah, if there's something that you like, stick around. So for today's topic, I do want to talk about the watches that had been on my radar for a while now, and I will give a little bit of a rationale behind it. For a little bit of context, previously, if you see my previous videos, I had bought a couple of Swiss watches. I do have some watches that I never take videos of. For example, I had a Ming 1709 in burgundy. I've also had a Longines Heritage that never made it to the channel, and obviously I had a Panerai as well. Actually, one of the Panerais I had, I made a video about. And there was another one, the Blue Mare. I think it was the PEM 1085, I would think, that never made it to the video as well. And lastly, I had a Rolex as well, which also didn't make it to my YouTube channel. But my point here being is that I have bought a couple of these Swiss watches, and at this point in time, my collection has been condensed entirely into just one single brand, which is Seiko, or if you will, Grand Seiko as well. So in due time, I will make a state of the collection video, but for today, I want to talk about the watches that I have on my radar right now. And by no means I'm going to be able to afford some of these watches in perhaps the next couple of years, because I am also planning for house ownership, so I do have to be financially responsible to a certain extent. But it's also very good, I would say it's very I would want to participate in the exercise of just thinking about, daydreaming about them, if you will. I'm sure all of us do here in this hobby. So the first watch I want to talk about is the JLC Master Ultra Thin 36 mm with the moon face. I think that particular watch is super elegant, and I do not currently own a designated dress watch in my collection. I do feel like it's a void that I need to fill. But I think for that particular watch, it's pure elegance. I have the most respect for JLC as a brand. The storied heritage, and I think the finishing is exceptional. Where I live here in Singapore, it goes for about 12 to 13,000 SGD, and that's without any discounts, so on retail. And I feel like that is a watch that I really would appreciate. Now, obviously, if you look into the dial furniture, it's extremely sparse, if you will. I think that's what it is. It's very clean, it's very empty, and it doesn't have any information that doesn't need to be there. Second of all is that I really enjoy the moon face. It's not the most useful complication, but I think it adds the flavor, the romance about watchmaking. Having to track something, a celestial body around Earth, that, to be fair, it is highly impactful to our daily living. It's just that we don't really take notice of. And I think lastly, then just for the fact that it's so clean, it's so understated, it fits my criteria of owning a watch. I do not like people thinking about, oh, Larry spent X amount of dollars on the watch itself, right? I do like having the opportunity to wear something that I like personally, that I would appreciate, I respect, but only connoisseurs, or maybe say only people in the know will know about the watch. So I think JLC is a very high pick for myself to fill up that dress watch Swiss luxury realm of things. The second watch I do want to talk about is the Glashütte Senator Panorama Date. I think that's what it's called. It's relatively chunky for a design and side profile. On the Master Ultra Thin, it's very narrow mid case, if you will, but in the Glashütte watch, it's very chunky, it's more thick, and I think it's more aggressive in that sense. One of the main thing that I really do like about it is I think they call it the Assegai hands. It's very uniquely shaped. I don't think much of any other brands does watch hands in that kind of shape, besides perhaps Laurent Ferrier. So not much is out there in the world for us to look into in terms of the kind of blued hours hand, blued minute hands. Just a beautiful watch. One thing that I think is extremely important to note as well is the fact that, if I'm not mistaken, the date is also independently rotatable. So basically, if you were to look into a standard watch date wheel, it's one single date frame that rotates throughout the months, the days. Wow. But at the same time, for the Glashütte, if I'm not mistaken, there are two separate panels for the date that actually independently rotates where it needs to be. So I think it's a really, really cool technological advancement, or rather development by Glashütte. Obviously, my wrist, I'm not sure whether I've mentioned this before on the channel before, but it's about 15.5-ish cm around. So for a guy, I think it's very, very thin. It's very narrow. It's very small wrist myself. But I do feel like I can pull off these two aforementioned watches quite nicely. So those are really very high on my radar in the running to be purchased. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Panorama Date for the Glashütte original Senator, it's about $13,000 to $14,000, but I had heard from the AD that I could possibly get a 20% discount, so that will bring it up to maybe perhaps even 10 or 11 perhaps. My math is not good at all, but either way, I think it's a massive bargain for whatever watch that you are getting across these two brands. But that said, it's 5 digits that I cannot spare right now. So immediately on my horizon, I think in the more affordable range, I have to look back into the 3 main brands that I hold very close to heart, which would be Tudor, Grand Seiko, and Longines. And of those 3 watches, there are a couple of models that I really particularly enjoy. And I would say, first of all, for Tudor, the Black Bay 58 in blue. Now, I had previously bought a Black Bay 58, a Black Bay Heritage in 41 with the blue bezel. And that is, to date, I think still one of the sexiest watches I've ever owned. And the reason why it's not with me anymore is because it's extremely thick. I think it's about 14 to 15 mil thick, and for my small wrist, it's never going to work out. So it's something that I did not anticipate until, and it's not something I realized until I've actually bought the watch in 2019. And now that there is a blue version with the blue dial, obviously it has been out for almost 4 to 5 years now, I think, at this point in time. It's still something that I really particularly enjoy, but one big consideration I have about the Tudor 58 in blue is that it's too pretty. It's extremely pretty, it's very flashy, it's not very tool-like. So I think with that consideration, I have to shelve it a little bit. Which also brings me to the next watch that I want to talk about, which is the Pelagos 39. So it's an immediate counterpart to the Black Bay 58, but it's significantly more toolish. It's also more expensive as far as I remember, but I think it encompasses a lot of the values I have for a tool watch of that price point. It has to be rugged, it has to be functional, as far as luxury watches will go. So I think those are the considerations I have, and I really particularly enjoy one major feature on, or rather design choice on the Pelagos, which is the square hour markers. You don't get that with the Black Bay 58. It's circled, which is great, it's fine, it's functional, but I do enjoy square hour markers. The way that Tudor does it, I think is very interesting. At the same time, if you were to look very closely with the Pelagos 39, the hour hands are matte finished so that it helps with legibility. When you look into the Tudor Black Bay 58, it's sheet metal. They have the whole entire thing pressed out of metal. I'm not sure how they treated Pelagos 39 that gives the matte white finish around the edges, but I think it's a very cool design choice. I think it's a very well made design choice. So those would be my two top choices when it comes down to Tudor. The other one from Grand Seiko, it's the blue snowflake. I think they call it the Skyflake, and it is a dress watch, obviously. But I think what I'm looking for at this point in time is going to be that spring drive within the watch. At the same time, it also brings a very nice air of class, similar to the two watches I mentioned at the very beginning, for about $7,000 to $8,000 if I'm not mistaken, on the strap. So it checks a lot of the boxes that I want to get from Grand Seiko. Though obviously I need to make sure that I'm not diluting what I'm getting out of my current collection. So that's something that I will once again show in the near future. I think one of the biggest draw for me when it comes down to the Skyflake is the fact that it has, once again, spring drive movement, accurate to I think 15 seconds per month, wildly more accurate than any mechanical watch out there. Second of all is that I think the dial furniture is extremely well finished. Once again, Zaratsu polishing, everyone's aware of that, but for those who don't know, it takes a master craftsman to be skilled at Zaratsu polishing. They have to go through 3 years of training just to make sure that they really master the art. And I think every facets of the hour markers and the case, they go through Zaratsu polishing as well, so it's mirror-like finish. And I have a couple of Grand Seiko myself, and I can promise you that it's exceptional. For the price, exceptional. One of the biggest drawback I think for that watch is the fact that it's still relatively thick at 13mm, although the domed sapphire crystal does add a bit of a thickness to it. Regardless, I think it can be a lot thinner, so I will still keep watch from it on it. And the last one is actually going to be the Longines. I think they call it the Dolce Vita. They have a sector dial in longish rectangular case size, and I think it's a very interesting design choice. A sector dial in sort of a tank shaped watch, and it's also the most affordable of the watches I'm considering at this point in time. I think for anybody who's interested in a square watch or a rectangular watch, I think you can't really go too wrong about Longines. Once again, one of the biggest drawback about watches like this is that rectangular watches tend to wear a little bit bigger. So for 47mm across the wrist, once again my wrist, it's only 15 plus cm across. It doesn't give me a lot of breathing room when it comes down to real estate on my wrist. So that is something that I have to keep watch, and probably I'm going to head back into the 80 for a couple of times to make sure that I make the right choice. But at the same time, I think the design that Longines brings out is very, very interesting, and it's something that I want to keep watch on. Perhaps I might even get a smaller version in quartz, but let's see how that plays out in the future. And lastly, I think I want to talk about the Master Collection. Back a couple of years, 1 or 2 years ago, they released something called the Master Collection in 190 years anniversary, I think. And since then, they have released also a 38mm, they have released a 34mm, and I think those are really sexy watches. I really particularly really love the fact that they use the old Longines typography, if you will, on the dial furniture, and I think that adds a lot of flavor. The sub-second hand is also very design is also a very nice touch to it. So that is another one in the running, but I do want to buy something with a little bit more design flair, if you will. I think like what Grand Seiko does, I think Tudor is very It's very unique in its design with the snowflake hand and the R marker and everything that I mentioned earlier on. So I think the Dolce Vita will take a lot of more of my boxes as opposed to the Master Collection, but we'll see how that goes. I rambled on a little bit at this point in time, so those are, in conclusion, the watches that I do want to experience or perhaps make a purchase in the near future. But yeah, let me know in the comments below whether there's any other watches that you think would be right for me. You would know that I'm looking for a little bit more of a dressy proposition, but anything goes, because once again I am here for the long run, so I think I want to enjoy and experience as much watches as possible. Any suggestions, any comments, any feedback, let me know. But yeah, this is it for today. I'll see you guys around. Take care.